freaking first cut. Golly. Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your recap pod for this week's Honda Classic. And joining me to break it all down, Greg DuCharme is here. What up, Greg?
What's going on, guys? What a week.
What a week. Talk all about it. you felt like you were trying to
up. Yeah, I'm like Matt Jones. I was ready to get us moving on to the next guy.
Greg was speaking it into existence. We got the coach here. Coach, good to see you.
So I've called 40 hours of golf, literally, on PGA Tour Live, but it was good to get that text saying, hey, can you jump on the pod tonight right after you're done? We'd love to have you. Yes, I'd love to be here. So
let's talk a little. I mean, when you've done so much, what's a little bit more? What's a little bit more? And Kyle Porter rounds out our foursome for this evening. KP, what's going on?
Yeah, I too am on the Matt Jones pace of play. I've got Oklahoma State playing in the NCAA tournament tonight, and I'm going to settle in for some Cade Cunningham here in a few hours. So let's go.
Speaking of madness, it's literally madness time in the sports world with the NCAA tournament in full swing, but you're a diehard sports fan, which means you want to stay in the know with all sports, and that's where CBS Sports HQ is your streaming answer. Just think of what's on tap for this week alone. MLB spring training, the NBA trade deadline, UFC 260, NFL free agency fallout, draft coverage as well, golf picks, U.S. men's national team. We could go on, but you get it. Sports never sleeps, and neither does CBS Sports HQ. It's available on your computer, your phone, via the CBS Sports app, and your connected TV. I personally leave it on all day, and if you live and breathe sports, I'd encourage you to as well. Matt Jones does it at PGA National. KP, his second PGA Tour victory. And while there was chaos all around him on Sunday, particularly from his playing partner and guys that were trying to make a move, this was like the easiest round of golf I've ever seen play for a guy who goes out and wins a golf tournament by 5 shots.
Yeah, I'm sure that I actually wrote something similar to that. And then I said, I'm sure he won't remember it as that. It was probably more stressful for him than it was to watch. But, you know, the thing I was thinking about on the weekend is just how many different ways there are to win a tournament, right? You think back to last week, how does JT win? Well, he barely makes the cut. I think he made it by 2 strokes at TPC Sawgrass. And then he just goes ballistic on the weekend. And Matt Jones was the opposite. He shoots literally the best round of this season on Thursday. And then he kind of just cruises to the end. You know, Aaron Wise jumps up, takes his big lead, then he falls back. And I thought Matt Jones was super steady over the last 3 days, which really kind of accentuated what he did. The round on Thursday was a joke. I know you guys talked about it on the recap pod, but it's going to go down as, I don't know, maybe the best or second best or third best round of this season. And it got him his second win, which gets him in the Masters. And it's we will talk about it for 30 or 40 minutes here, but it's a huge deal for somebody like that who's kind of a fringe top 75, top 100 guy in the world.
Entering Sunday with a 3-shot lead's always kind of weird, Greg. We've seen guys kind of falter quickly. We've seen other guys kind of run away with it. Here's what Matt Jones did. He hits 11 of 14 fairways, 17 of 18 greens, essentially just dominates the field all week long from tee to green, and puts this one away pretty easily.
So, yeah, right. And it really did look easy. But, you know, there's a couple of...
Yeah, it was easy from my side.
He does say that he doesn't get nervous in tournaments. I'm sure you heard him talking about that on the broadcast. Golf tournaments don't make him nervous. And he has this laid-back attitude, and you listen to him in interviews, and he's always been this way. He just has a laid-back way about him. And today, you really got the sense that that's real. He's not just saying that. Even under the pressure that a golf course like PGA National presents, he's still able to go ahead and do his thing, and his pace of play it seemed like it would help. But at the beginning of the day, looking at that pairing with JB Holmes, I was really nervous for Matt Jones because that's not a favorable pairing. Right? When you take a guy who plays really fast and a guy who plays really slow, the fast player never affects the slow player. JB Holmes is never going to say, wow, I felt rushed by Matt Jones. But Matt Jones will always feel like, hey, I felt held up today. So he probably feels like everybody holds him up every single time he ever tees it up on tour. Every round, his pairing, there's somebody that holds him up because he plays so fast. But it's impressive to me when you're in the final group and you have the situation JB Holmes had on number 2, and things kind of get a little crazy and they take a little bit of time and you're waiting and you play at that kind of a pace. It was just really impressive to me that he was able to keep it together and make it look as easy as he did.
It was a 2 under 68 that gets the job done, Coach. Anytime Matt Jones got into a little bit of trouble, he would quickly extradite himself from that situation and get back into play, make a par when he had to. He rolled in plenty of putts. And we talked about one of the big storylines coming into the week, that in a field that was softer than normal, there was a lot of opportunity out there for guys like Matt Jones, who now cashes in on his second career Masters invite. He moves to 11th in the FedEx Cup points. This is career trajectory changing stuff for Matt Jones.
Yeah, there's a few things I want to hit on here. First of all, we've done the show the last 2 nights, you and I together, and I did PGA Tour Live with Stuart Appleby, who's from Australia, just like Matt Jones is. And he told me on Thursday after the 61, he goes, listen, I don't think that Jonesy is going to move backwards, because he won on a course in Australia that he said is way tougher than PGA National. And he told me that. And then I was trying to think of a word to use today to describe what he did, and I would use the word dominant, because he's the only player in the field, think about this, guys, that never shot over par. He shot even par on Friday, but he never shot over par. Think about that for a second. When everybody else is double here, triple there, 11 on 17 at one point for Brian Stewart, and yet Matt Jones somehow just kept it going. And I thought that was one of the most remarkable 4 rounds of golf, and even if you take the 61 out of it, because he just putted the lights out, to be able to do what he did when everybody else was blowing up was nothing short of amazing. And how many times do we look back and go, how come we didn't pick that guy to win this week? Plus 7,000 would have been a nice payday. But I also leave this week feeling kind of bad for a lot of guys, because we don't talk about money a lot as far as earning a living, as far as how much you're going to make, because a lot of the guys make millions and millions. But there were so many guys across the board that lost hundreds of thousands of dollars because they couldn't keep the ball in play. But you had this one dude over here that would step up. And when you're a play-by-play guy like I do for the PGA Tour, I have to watch him, because if I look down, he's already hit the ball. And I haven't even called, what he's doing yet. So it's refreshing to have him win. It's refreshing to have somebody fast play. But also it was a tough week for a lot of guys not named Matt Jones.
Certainly, that's certainly true. I want to mine into the one comment that he did make, and Greg brought this up, and KP, I'll throw this at you. Do you believe Matt Jones doesn't get nervous? Is that a defense mechanism? Is that like what his sports psychologist says? Put that out in the universe. Tell people you don't get nervous. Try to convince yourself of it, or he actually physically does not get nervous? Well,
I think what he's saying, and I think sometimes on the broadcast and even with us, we kind of overrate how often guys get nervous. Mm-hmm. Like standing on the second tee on like a Saturday afternoon, like nobody's nervous, right? Like that's not maybe for like the Ryder Cup, maybe you have a moment at the US Open or something like that. But if you're standing on, and maybe he didn't this week because he never really had pressure on Sunday, but if you're standing on 16 on Sunday with a 1-stroke lead, yeah, like you're gonna feel that, like that. You're not impervious to that, no matter who you are. And if you don't, you're not a human. Maybe Sungjae doesn't get nervous. Maybe he's the only one that doesn't feel it. The robot. But I do think like we way overplay the he's feeling this type thing. Like no, you just did a bad shot, And so I do think that there's some of that going on. But they were showing the replay of Matt Jones at the Houston Open from 14 when he beat Kuchar, and he chips in a bunch of times. Like
maybe we lost him.
If I didn't feeling something before you chat, right? Like there's no way you can just generate that emotion. So yeah, I don't know.
It's one of these things, Greg, that I think I wonder if his pace of play helps with this, right? I mean, to be able to get up there and hit the ball as quick as he does, I feel like you have to have some level of like I don't want to say not caring, but like not being results oriented, right? We see guys grind over it, make sure they're in position, bring it back, check my hands, check my alignment 9 times. He's just like, whatever the result of this is going to be, it's going to be. I'm just going to go up there and smack it. And I wonder if those two things kind of go together.
Yeah, and I think they do. But again, there's a other side of this. If it doesn't go well for Matt Jones, I mentioned the grouping that he had today. When you're playing with somebody that's slowing you down, right? That's significantly slower, it extends the time in between shots. So a lot of guys, a lot of sports psychologists will work on pacing with their players because you got to pace things out to make sure that you're staying in your routine. Matt Jones has an incredible ability to get into his routine when it's his turn, and when it's not his turn, he's probably talking about something else. I don't know what he's doing, but he is for some reason just staying extremely calm. And all of a sudden, when it's his turn, he goes through the same routine. So when guys get really nervous, what I look for is a change in routine. I look for an extra waggle, an extra practice swing, maybe an extra back off or something along those lines where there's a noticeable change in the routine. And for Matt Jones, I never saw it. I do think the simplicity of his routine, goes along with the pace of it, but the fact that it's so simple, so repeatable, and he just continues to do it over and over again definitely looks like he's not getting nervous out there. So I think there's a relationship there, but I don't think it's as easy as, hey, if you're nervous, play fast. But you have to play to what you are under the gun. And Matt Jones plays to his personality. And this week he did it all 4 rounds from the first tee to the 72nd green.
And I like the idea that if there's more time in between shots, it gives you more time to think, Coach. And there would have been no better example of too much time to think than Matt Jones playing on Sunday with JB Holmes, who is just kind of losing it all over the place, taking a while to get some rollings, and he's still solid. So even when you give Matt Jones all the time in the world to think about it, all the time in the world to get nervous, he's certainly not going to that place.
Well, and that was fairly obvious, and I was kind of worried a little bit too that with the pairing of JB Holmes. But coming into this week, when you look at Matt Jones and what his strengths are, and the fact that he's had one PGA Tour win, he's been criticized in the past that maybe because of the fast play, that when he has been, the few times in contention, a chance to win, showing up on the first page of the leaderboard, that maybe he should take a little bit more time to line up a putt, a little bit more time to talk to his caddy, a little bit more time to just understand how big of a moment, and that if you finish T2 or 4th or 5th, how much that can do for you. He doesn't do that. That's his thing. And I think we can target Matt Jones because we always talk about how do we bring people into the game? How about amateurs? And we take so long, most of us, when we play, and we see what he did. And today it was so easy. I think that's the other word that I want to take away from it, that on a course, and this is the first time I've called the Honda Classic, it is so hard. And there are so many players that are going to wake up in the morning and they're going to have nightmares about all the water, all the hazards. Phil Mickelson never wants to play hole 11 ever again in his life. And Aaron Wise, you take away 3 holes and he wins the golf tournament. But you can't do that because you got to play all 72. So Matt Jones did something that was remarkable. And to Kyle's point, the 61 on Thursday, there were guys saying, was he playing the Champions Course or was he down the road, playing somewhere else in Jupiter somewhere? Because that was astounding. But then I thought the other 3 days were as remarkable as the 61 because he was 3 over. Am I right, Kyle? He was 3 over at one point on Friday, eagled 18, then brought him all the way back to even par. And then yesterday and today, he was the only guy in the whole field, almost 70 dudes, that never was in trouble, never was out of the fairway, never had an issue. That never happens on the PGA Tour, and he needs to be commended for that.
Yeah, it never happens at this course, especially. I do wonder if on Thursday he would have taken the 61 and said, "Okay, that's my number for the week," because it would have won him the tournament by 2.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about that,
and he wouldn't have, and here's why: because there hasn't been a first round leader win the golf tournament since 2003.
But there's also not been a first round leader that has been allowed to stop playing for the next 3 days.
Do you have to point that out? You have to point that out, right?
But that's to your point about how hard it is to. Right. And I agree.
I think it makes coaches' point stronger.
Yeah,
for sure. Like the last 3 days were almost as impressive, if not as impressive, as the 61 on Thursday.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
I have a great little trivia question here. Matt Jones is on a short list of golfers. The list is this. It is Matt Jones, Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus, Greg Norman, and Jordan Spieth. They all have one thing in common. Any guesses? Oh, Kyle Porter. Go ahead.
Australian Open.
That is very, very close.
Australian Open and a PGA Tour win.
How about Australian Open twice?
Oh, wow.
Spieth won it twice?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
He won, then went back and won again. But remember, the second time was really hard. First time was like a walk in the park, and the second one was difficult.
He won
Matt
it in
Jones-
14.
Yeah.
Spieth won it in 14, right before he won the Masters.
Yeah.
I think he won in 13, 14, or maybe 14, 15. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it was back-to-back years.
That sounds
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
It's courtesy of producer Jacob, so I guarantee it's right. Matt Jones, Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus, Greg Norman, Jordan Spieth have all won the Australian Open at least twice since World War II. How about that?
Wow.
That's a great stat.
It's a
Whenever
great
Rick says
stat.
trivia, my hands start to sweat.
Odds and ends, real
Pavlov.
quick. Yeah, right. We've got him trained. Odds and ends, real quick here, gentlemen. We got absolutely smoked with our betting cards. Kyle, you were the best of the worst. We were absolutely terrible. One and done was a little bit of a different story. We did okay. Here's where we go. So let me give you the full one and done update here.
Oh, God.
Coach,
Oh, stop. Stop. Stop.
with Shane Lowry, who I believe went 74-74 on the weekend, gets you 29,000, moves you to 2,044,000.
We went from about 700,000 on Saturday morning when he teed off all the way down to 29,000. Thank you, Shane Lowry. Appreciate
Coach, he
you.
was in second at after 9 at the turn on Sunday. He was
I
in second
know.
place.
No, Saturday, not Sunday. Today he
Saturday,
wasn't.
right.
Yeah,
Saturday.
yeah,
My mistake.
Yeah, trust me. I was watching the free fall, and I was like, who's
Yeah.
going to catch him? Who's going to
Yeah.
catch him? And nobody caught him.
His last 27 holes, 9 over.
Hey, Greg, I had him in a head-up bet on Saturday over Russell Henley. He was 6 up at the turn, and I lost the bet.
Oh no!
If that gives you an idea how bad, he shot a 40 on his second night on Saturday to just fall all the way down.
The reason that Greg is lamenting with you, Coach, is he also had Shane Lowry for 29,000. Producer Jacob, I'm sure behind the glass, is also doing the same because producer Jacob had Shane Lowry.
I didn't know that. I didn't even look at
That's
the
why. That's
spreadsheet.
why I know so much about it, Coach. Because I'm right there with you. I feel your pain.
Oh my goodness. Oh gosh.
So in between producer Jacob and Greg, so Greg's going to stay relatively the same, 4.9 million. KP is at 3.5 because he got 190,000 from Sung J M. KP, I would argue that if he doesn't get a plugged lie on 17 on Saturday, it's probably Sung J M who's making noise in this event. But I think you'll take T8 money here. How do you feel about this?
I feel like it's a fine outcome. I mean, it's probably like the worst you were expecting coming into the week with Sung Jae being the best player in the field. But he kind of played well late on Sunday to get there. So yeah, I'm good with it. I'd be interested what you would have to average per week to end up winning at the end of the year.
So I did this once. It depends. So we have a pretty small pool, so you don't have to do too much. Like, well, I'll tell you. Hold on. Let's do. It's usually like 200 something thousand. Okay, so
that's
I've
on.
averaged right now 282,000 a week. That's my average.
Okay,
So if you're getting like
190
250, yeah.
So 194 is a little below average. The biggest thing is you have to have a win at some point, right?
Right.
And that kind
Kyle.
of makes
Kyle. He just throws out his average, and knowing that he pocketed 2.7 large last week, that helped the average a little bit, Rick. That helped the average a little bit.
But I think everybody's had a win. Everybody's had a win except for Coach, who hasn't participated for as long.
Yeah.
Right?
I didn't come in until January, yeah.
Wow.
'Cause
Everybody's got a win. That's impressive.
A couple of people picked DJ at the Masters. I had a Cantlay win. Rick had JT.
Jacob had Hovland at Mayakoba. That was a good one.
Wow, Jacob.
That's dirty.
That is dirty.
That's like a third of the player's purse, though.
Mark is at 5.3, and he's gone back-to-back goose eggs. So he got a goose egg from Tommy at the Players. He had Lee Westwood this week. That's a goose egg. He's going to lose sleep, I think, gentlemen. You know how seriously he takes this.
That's why he's not here.
I told him, didn't I? And the only reason I'm happy today is because the book that I use, I told everybody, I went on social media. You guys saw it. I said, fade Westwood as many times as you can. And so I won a bunch of money by Friday. I've been in the red since Friday, so I'm good. I'm good.
But Westwood told us on Sunday that he was cooked.
Why would anybody pick him? He said, I'm tired.
And then I saw his interview on Friday at Honda. He shot 78 on Friday.
Yeah.
And they said, are you burned out? And he said, yeah, I was done like 4 days ago. Yeah. And it was I know, you told me.
And guess what? So was his fiance, because she wasn't even on the bag for the Honda.
Yeah,
she was tired. When he pulled out the putter on 14 and it took him 3 times to get up onto the green, that's when we said, you know what, he's exhausted. He doesn't even care to chip. He's just trying to get it up there anywhere on the green just to get finished. He didn't care about getting it close. That's when I knew he was done.
I had Joaquin Niemann. I got 54,950 to move my total to 6.4 million for the season. Next week is another WGC. I believe first place is 1.8. And there's only 64 golfers in the field, gentlemen. So there is plenty of opportunity brewing this time next week.
Oh yeah. Can't wait. And it starts on Wednesday. And for the first time, because now that I'm involved with you guys, best believe we're going to start playing for some real money sometime. So this week we're playing for real money. And then next year for one and done, we're throwing some real money in. So that actually it hurts. Because right now, does it really hurt? We can fake it like it really hurts, but it needs to hurt. And you got to be able to brag. So we're throwing some real cheese.
Yeah, Coach, I'm all in on that, but I will say it really does hurt. I mean, Shane Lowry.
It hurts.
Shane Lowry hurt me this week.
The 340 that I gave back for Scheffler for cheating with Scheffler would have hurt. It would have hurt a little bit more.
Thank you, Kyle.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. That's right.
My rules infraction would have been more painful.
Yeah,
I think you would have fought a little harder. You would have fought a little harder for that one.
I'm no Patrick Reed. I'm going to abide by the rules.
Speaking of Patrick Reed, he will be in the field next week. We're going to talk about the WGC match play. We're going to talk about a little Brooks Koepka news, if you want to call it that. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners. And we're back. About 44 minutes ago, gentlemen, Brooks Koepka tweeted out, and I quote, "Only one way to go from here." Up arrow emoji. You know which one I'm talking about. And it is a montage of photos that KP don't look great.
There's a Muhammad Ali in there. I don't know. There's a lot going on, but the big one is that he's got this sort of bandage around his left knee, right knee. His right knee.
We're looking at it on YouTube here.
Okay.
His left knee was last time. It's his right knee this time. I would be shocked if, based on this tweet, these photos, if he played the Masters. Mm-hmm. And I would be surprised, I think, if he played the PGA, which is in 2 months or whatever. 2 months from this week, actually. It's not great. And it's a bummer because he was just starting to kind of hit that stride again after coming back from the left knee, which had been lingering for 18 months.
Yeah.
And so, it doesn't look great.
Listen,
do we know how this? Because I mean, he won in Phoenix a month ago. How did this happen, or was it always hurt? And he finally had to get it fixed.
Well, this is the other knee. This is the. I don't know.
I don't know that,
but
this is crazy.
He withdrew from something and said he aggravated his. What was the event he withdrew from? Because there
players
in like 2 weeks. Yeah,
players. Yeah. Right? He withdrew from players because he aggravated his right knee, and now we have these pictures.
Okay,
it looks like more than aggravated to me.
Sure does.
I mean, you don't know when they were taken, but if that happened at players, you're within. I mean, those pictures may not be from today, but they're not long ago.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
They're definitely over multiple days. He's wearing 2 different sweatshirts, but I don't want to speculate, but let me wildly speculate here for a second. That type of bandage, coach, that looks like a bandage on his knee went when an incision is made. Now that could mean a lot of things. I don't want to say surgery, but that's a scary looking bandage when I see that on his right.
You don't think that's rug burn?
It's one of two things. Either you fall when you're playing basketball on an outside court, or you have surgery like that because there's a big old scar or scab or incision that you don't want it to leak. And so you've got to put it all around the entire thing. So my guess is it was a minor surgery because of the size of the bandage, but still, say it's an MCL, that's still going to keep you out for 4 to 6 weeks minimum.
Well, I am, as a Kyle, less and less optimistic about Brooks getting back onto the course anytime soon. He's obviously already withdrawn from the WGC next week, and we'll keep a close eye on what he is up to moving forward. But let's talk about that match play. 64 of the top 69 players in the field. And KP, like, I just love match play, right? Like, we get it at the Ryder Cup. We get it at the President's Cup. This is our one opportunity on the PGA, the regular PGA Tour schedule, to really get something like this. And ever since they made the switch to round robin play in 2015, and then you go to single elimination, this really is one of my favorite events on the schedule.
Yeah, I think I've tried to pick this a bunch of different ways. I think I'm going to pick it this year by the guy that I would least enjoy playing against, like the guy that I envision I would least enjoy playing. And so I'm curious about who that is for everybody. I think for me right now, Morikawa would be up there. He just hits every pin. I mean, it's like he would just be infuriating because even if I'm Rory or Bubba or whoever and 40 yards past him, he's just firing at every flag stick, like he would be. I think he's going to be super interesting because he hasn't really participated a ton in this. This might be his first one, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think he's going to be fascinating. And I don't know, there's a lot of guys coming in playing pretty well. I mean, JT, obviously.
There's a lot of young guys who are going to make their debut. And Greg, the angle that I'm thinking about this week, I hate to say this, I think Rory's kind of interesting. Obviously, he's like dominated this event. He's played well. But hold on, hear me out here. Rory needs something different. Okay. Winning a golf tournament with 140 other players in the field, you have to have your absolute A+ game all the time. Everything's got to go right for you. Here, you got to beat one guy like 7 times. It feels, and you know what? Like, if you get a hot putter or you don't have to be as exact, I don't know. I feel like it's just, I think it's a spark for him.
Well, this is where Rory's 43-29 comes into play.
Right.
You shoot 43, you maybe only lost 2 holes. Sorry, Greg. He was talking to you.
No, you're absolutely right. The one problem is guys that win in match play putt. Right? They're great.
That's
the best
problem.
Putters. So when the problem I see with Rory has been he misses a short putt and it really throws him off with the rest of his game. Not that I mean the rest of his game has really taken a slide. I think it comes from lack of trust in the short range on putts. Happens round to round, and that happens in match play. And it can almost exaggerate it. Whereas like a JT, whose his biggest weakness has been some really errant tee shots. It didn't happen at the Players, but errant tee shots have cost him in the past. Xander's the same way. Errant tee shots have cost him. Well, all of a sudden in match play, those don't hurt. They don't hurt as bad. That's one hole. So I'm looking for guys that are making a ton of birdies. I think one of the surprise least favorite guys to play against would be a Jordan Spieth. I would not want to play against him because you're constantly counting. Okay, I feel like I should win this hole, and then you don't win the hole. You lose the hole. And, he hit it in the woods, and then you lose the hole. Right? He makes
that's gonna be awesome.
It's annoying. It gets really annoying.
So if you've never seen this match play, because we didn't have it last year, Coach, so there's no 2020 edition of this. Kevin Kisner in 2019, still our defending champion. What's going to happen tomorrow, and I believe you're involved in this, is we're going to draw the groups. So the top 16 seeds. Are you on the show? Are you on the draw show?
Well, I decided to bring in an expert for the guy who was going to host it for the PGA Tour. So just a second. Hey guys, how you doing? I'll be hosting the show tomorrow for the PGA Tour. Anyway, go ahead, Rick.
The worst.
I was not expecting that. I did not know where he was going. I was positive he was doing it, and then Rick's face
was incredible.
And then he gave me
My
a look
bad.
like I was wrong, and I was like, "There's no way I'm wrong about this." So anyway, so what they're going to do is they take the top 16 seeds, they spread them out in groups, and then we draw for what the rest of the groups are going to be. And Coach, if you thought chaos was this week, there's probably going to be chaos next week. Of the 16 top seeds last year or 2019, only 5 made it out of the group stage. So you might see some kind of weird looking brackets.
You know what's crazy, guys, is and we've all, I think, said, it's been a year, and we all reflected on the last year. A year ago, the tour called me, says, "Coach, we want you to host our bracket reveal special." And then this was the week that it got canceled because of COVID. And now you fast forward a year, and here we are. And I could not be more excited because I'm like you guys. I love this so much, and it means so much to me. It may sound silly to you guys, but it means so much to me that the tour has asked me to host this because I know this means a lot to them. And it's so different than a way it used to be. So you can talk about, well, you got to get the guy who's red hot that's got to win 7 times. They don't have to win 7 times anymore. They don't. All they have to do is win their pod and then get into Saturday. It changed because so many people complained because you'd show up for one day and then you were going to go home, and it wasn't worth it to the players. Now you get a much better field because everybody knows they're going to get 3 rounds. So for me, it's not so much about who's the hottest, but who's the most consistent, who's hitting it the best, who's putting it the best. Because like Kyle said, you go out and shoot at 43, but if you're putting it and you make those par putts from 10 or 12 feet, then you can stay in a match. And so when you look at the last 5 champions, Kisner, as you said, is the defending champion. Bubba before him, DJ before him, Jason Day in 16, and then Rory in 15. But now you got this infusion of talent. And the thing I like about the WGC is they allow you to qualify up until today. So now you've got like a Matt Jones who all of a sudden he's got to change his travel plans because he's now 11th, right? And so Am I don't wrong?
Think so.
Am I wrong?
Matt Jones, I think it was set last week. I think Matt Jones missed it by a week because it's off the official World Golf rankings.
My researcher told me you can still qualify today. So
I don't think so.
Okay, well, I could be wrong because tonight I'm doing my research on it for tomorrow. I have to compartmentalize because if I do research before I do the Honda, then I'll start throwing out wrong facts for that. So regardless, in the morning at 11 a.m., you have to just win your pod. We've seen guys and playoffs and things of that nature. I think you've got to come in as guys that are consistent, that are putting extremely, extremely well, and that their iron play is really good. I think that's why when Kyle said Colin Morikawa, I think he is a sexy pick this week because if you're playing against him and you know that he's going to hit every green in regulation, and there's a pretty good chance he's going to be within 20 feet on every single hole, that's a hard mental thing to get past because now it puts pressure on your shot from wherever you are. So to me, iron play, putting are the 2 most important things this week.
That draw show is 11 a.m. Eastern Monday morning. Is that right?
Tomorrow morning, correct.
Okay, tomorrow morning, Monday morning. So we'll have the groups, we'll have the pods, and it starts on Wednesday, which means we are going every single day next week, Greg. It is going to be Monday's got our regular DFS preview, I think. Tuesday, we're going, I think, 6 wide. Sia will be on the show. It's going to be a little bit bonkers because we got brackets to go through. And then every day, a recap episode, a truly daily first cut next week.
Yeah, it is. Right, 7 days. It's going to be a blast. And I love the idea of going through the whole bracket picks. This is the ultimate pick'em week. You get to it's great. So it's intriguing. It doesn't mean that the best players are necessarily going to be there. This is the WGC that's kind of that outlier, right? We always talk about how big names win WGCs, but we're talking about 3 of the 4 because this is one where you can get some variance. And the reason is, cream rises to the top when you're looking at a 4-round event, and you may be able to beat me for 1 round, but you're not going to beat me for 4. Well, this is 1 round, right? Can you beat me for 1 round? And there are a lot of guys. I think of like a Louis Oosthuizen. I think of some of these other guys that are kind of not as they're not that A tier. That they're not going to be 1 and 2 seeds in this event. That can really make a run, and they could end up in the finals or even win the whole thing.
Louis Oosthuizen 17-7 in this event since 2015, since they went to the format change. Unbelievable stuff. He's got the best record out of anybody.
Yeah. He's the best putter on tour right now, too.
Might be Louis week.
There
might
you go.
be Louis
there
week. Also,
and isn't it nice that for 3 days we get a March Madness feel instead of going 64, 32, 16? Instead, it's going to be 32 matches for 3 days, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Last 6 months, only Louis Oosthuizen and Brendan Todd have over 1 stroke gain with the putter per round. Cantlay would also be just miserable to go against because he's slow. He hits it. He hits it at every stick, and he would be the worst. I would never want to face Cantlay in match play.
I would hate that. Slow and good.
Slow and hits every green. I mean, I would just be like, yeah, I'm out. I'm good. I'll play the next round.
I bet he's a secret trash talker too. I bet he's a secret trash talker too.
For sure. And just says vile things to you. He would be awful. Yeah. The U.S. needs to roll him out first in the Ryder Cup. Just go out there and just say just awful things to Rory and to John Rahm. Yeah, seriously.
I love this.
I don't want to get off the beaten path here, but speaking of trash talk, I got to tell the story real quick because it's so funny. Did you guys see Mickelson on 6 at the Honda? What happened to him yesterday? So he hits it to the right, and he's out of play. So he gets to drop, and so he takes the first ball out of play. So now he drops the second, hits it way over the green, so he has to go over a tower with a 64 degree. Takes the second ball out of play. Hits his third ball onto the green and makes the putt for a par. So he used 3 balls, and then he gave 2 balls to these 2 cute little girls. He's playing with CT Pan, who made a traditional par. He walks onto the 7th tee, and he looks at CT, and he goes, so what'd you get on that hole? And CT goes, I got a 4. And he goes, nice half. And that was
nice
it.
half.
That
only
was
Phil,
it.
Only Phil drops, plays 3 balls, and makes a par. It's unbelievable.
Never seen anything like it in my entire life. It was amazing. It was amazing.
If your March Madness bracket is busted, we're going to give you another shot. We'll have a bracket challenge for our listeners to join in for the WGC match play. But for this week's Honda Classic, Vince Carter, Doc Giff. That's it. Any parting words before we get out of here, gentlemen?
Nope.
Kyle.
Ricky Fowler, real quick, made the cut on 36 of his holes on the weekend. He played 36 holes on the weekend. On 20 of them, he lost strokes on his approach shots. 20 out of 36. What is that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's like you're not even an average player in the Honda Classic.
And you guys saw his post round, right? Where I had him Friday, and I really thought he had found something. It looked like he had found something, and so I was kind of bullish on him on Saturday, and then he blows up, and he addressed the Nick Faldo stuff, and basically he's like, I got great partners, I made some great commercials, and it's all good. So I don't even know what's happening with him right now.
I thought he was good on the Faldo stuff. I mean, too, what are you supposed to say? It's just. Yeah. It's got to be infuriating to go from, and I know we talked about this earlier, but to go from being like a top 25 guy in the world, top 15 guy in the world, and now you can't even hit positive approach shots on half your holes on the weekend where it's not a very good field. It's just, I don't know. It's a bummer because he's been one of the most likable people in the game for a decade, and now he's going to miss his first major since 2010 U.S. Open.
Yikes. Greg, give us something positive to leave on. We can't leave on that.
Sorry.
Something positive. Well, I think this upcoming week here on the First Cut is going to be one of the more fun weeks that we have for the year. I mean, going every single day. We have some unique things going on, so I can't wait. So just make sure you tune in, and we'll be sure not to leave any of these shows Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, especially Sunday, with a depressing Ricky Fowler take.
There you go. That's our promise, and we're sticking to it. That's Greg DuCharme. You can find him on Twitter at @TheRealGFD. You can find the coach at TheCoachRules. You can find Kyle Porter at Kyle Porter CBS, and you can find me at Rick Run Good. We'll see you Monday. This has been the First Cut. Catch you next time.